Hello and welcome to Promenade Française, the place where you can watch me struggle as I learn to figure out how is it that we're going to learn French. So, as a recap, basically what's going on is I wrote a little story, and after I wrote the story, then I used some of our friends, Google Translate, ChatGPT, in order to retell the story using the French culture and the French language. And now I have these conversations. I've written 4 books. 2 of the books are about Marie, and 2 of the books are about Nicolas. After I wrote the books, then I got a French person to record a whole bunch of conversations in the life of Marie and the conversations in the life of Nicolas. And the exciting thing is that at some point, Marie and Nicolas meet. Our story helps us to understand conversations in French, and most of the topics are about business situations and life situations and love. So we're starting with Marie. Now, the thing is that I'm not particularly happy with the book. I like the book and I like the story. I also like listening to the audio, and that's the idea behind this concept of Promenade Française. You can listen to the audio and learn French. But suddenly I realized that I'm listening and I'm repeating, but at some point you have to be able to really understand the sentence in order to learn what the sentence is saying. And so over the past couple of weeks, we learned about the French verb être, and then we learned the French verb aller. And now it's like, okay, so we finished the first conversation between Marie and her cat. Bonjour Sam, tu es très mignon. Comment vas-tu ce matin? Meow. Now we're on the second conversation. And in the second conversation, we have Marie walking down the street and she sees Mrs. Moreau. Mrs. Moreau owns the local flower shop. And Marie sees her and she says,
Salut Madame Moreau, vous êtes très belle aujourd'hui.
And Mrs. Moreau, she replies and says,
Merci Marie, tu es si gentille.
Then Marie replies,
Je te souhaite une merveilleuse journée.
and Mrs. Moreau says,
Je suis ravie de te voir.
so there you go. I have the first two conversations memorized. It looks like we're really making progress. I have a basic understanding of the French verb être. I know how to conjugate it with the personal pronouns in the subject position. Je suis, tu es. I also have learned a bunch of adjectives. And then I learned that the French verb aller, it can be used in the English sentence, how is it going? Meaning, how are you? So aller means to go, and just like in English, it means how is it going? And then we learned how to conjugate that with the personal pronouns. And then we learned all the different times of the day. Matin, aujourd'hui, nuit, soir. So we finished the first page, and now we're on to the second page. I've already memorized the conversations in the second page, but I think that it's important for us to also understand the grammar. There's 2 points that we're going to be learning in the coming week. And the first point is this idea of si. I'm not sure, is it really that important to create a whole video about si? Is it important to also make an exercise sheet in order for people to learn the exercise and learn the difference between si and très? So in the next week, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to learn the difference between si and très. Merci Marie, tu es si gentille. So merci Marie, thank you Marie, tu es si gentille. You are so kind. But in the first sentence, it says, vous êtes très belle aujourd'hui. Vous êtes très belle. You are. Vous êtes. Remember that's the same thing as tu es. So vous êtes because Marie is talking to an older woman, and tu es because the older woman is talking to the younger lady. So we have vous êtes très belle, and we have tu es si gentille. You are so beautiful. You are so kind. That's the first question. What's the difference between si and très? Très and si. It means the same thing. You are so beautiful. You are so kind. There must be a difference. And that's something that we're going to learn next week. Then in the next two sentences, we have something that is much, much more difficult. I'm sorry to tell you, but we're now moving to something which is so difficult that your head may just blow up. There are the two sentences, Je suis ravi de te voir, and Je te souhaite une merveilleuse journée. So in the first sentence, Je te souhaite. I, te, souhaite. I wish you. I wish you. And then in the next sentence, ravi de te voir. Ravi de te voir. I am ravi, happy, de te voir, to see you. So in one case, we're using the verb to wish, and in the next case, we're using the verb to see. We are happy to see someone. We are wishing someone a wonderful day. And in both cases, we have this te, te. So suddenly it's not je suis tu, it's not tu. So it's not you. What is te? All right, so remember that we learned something called a personal pronoun. A personal pronoun is when you have like a person's name. Blaine is my name. And instead of saying Blaine is happy today, I use the personal pronoun I. The personal pronoun in this case is in the subject position, meaning it's the first part of the sentence. So I am. If we put the personal pronoun at the end of the sentence, for example, I see Tom, we can also say I see him. Even in English, he sees him. So he in the subject position is different than him in the object position. And that's the other thing that we're going to learn next week. Now, the difficult part is that sometimes we have a direct object and sometimes we have an indirect object. So get ready for another exciting week, more exercise sheets, and follow along in the book Greetings in French, Part 1.